Hello everyone, and welcome to a tech demo for my mod, Basilica Tribuo. So with the release of patch 1.05 and a large number of changes to say the least, it's going to take me a couple of days still to get out the patch. Although the game and the mod is now compatible, there's still just such a large number of changes that still need doing and completing. Let's start in Siberia. As you'll notice, this is pretty ugly. The localizations aren't written and the colors aren't changed yet. I apologize for that, but the majority of this is just to show you how the provinces I've added and the duchies I've added and the kingdoms and the changes I've made along those lines. And I'll be explaining why. I've added in this area 4 province duchies. Cheramis, Tchuds, and Yakut. These represent 3 historical tribes that ruled over this area, much the same as the Samoyed and Byarma. It's all been added to the Kingdom of Siberia, including Highlanov and Byarma. I don't feel like they really truly started out de jure Rus. In 1066, it's kind of preposterous to think that. So I kind of removed it using the new game mechanic that you can, I guess you could say, assimilate duchies. I feel like this works out a lot better. It also reduces the size of Rus. I really need to remove that. Which is still 48 provinces, so it's still a fairly large kingdom. Siberia has lost Tyumen and Ektob to Khazaria, since it's gained a pile of new stuff up here, making it a whopping 40 province kingdom. Khazaria is now all the way up to 30, so some fairly large kingdoms out here. Let's head down here. So the first thing to note is Abyssinia now has gained Sana'a, and Arabia has these 2 new provinces. This has been added into Oman, and this has been added into Nufud. Oman, this will be given to Kawerd of Hormuz, and this will be made into a vassal of the Emirate of Arabs. For now, they're just randomly generated independent counts, but that's simply because I haven't made characters assigned characters for the area yet. That will change. Sana'a, as you can see, has been added to Abyssinia. This is because Abyssinia only actually recently lost it. I mean, I say recently to mean 200 years, but they held on to it for a good 200 years. And even then, it wasn't exactly owned by the King of Arabia. They took it from the Sassanid Empire. Next thing to note is Nubia now has de jure territory. There are also 2 new provinces. Yeah, that's not localized yet. We have Aswan and Heya that are now de jure Nubia. Sinkat and Kanasa have both been added in. They're well-developed provinces because they're on the coast. Once nudge mode gets fixed up a bit, it's currently not really that good. I'll be adding in traversable waters here around the Arabian Peninsula as well as in the Caspian and Aral Seas. Alright, let's move over here to Makuria and Alodia. Another thing I'm going to be doing to Nubia is I'm going to be making its ruler and its heir monophysite, or Coptic. The reason for this is because with the whole new mechanic in which people can join in with defenders to protect them from holy wars, which is another reason why I've added in these. It's they're going to help defend the Samoyeds and Byarma, and more pagans just generally means more defense, and it should be a little harder to fight them that way. By making Nubia monophysite, it might not be historical, but from a gameplay standpoint, it's much better because Makuria, Lottia, Abyssinia, and Exum will all help Nubia if the Caliphate attacks. So, I'm going to be making Nubia, and here, in fact, we can see the religion here. So, this is the expanded monophysite territory. Makuria owns all of its territory except for that, which will be given to somebody else. Now we get into some more ugly area. As you can see, it's not localized, it's not colored. It's still under construction. I've got the duchies down as well, as I have over here. I have all the duchies done. So, let's start in kingdoms. We have Kinem and Bornu. We have two duchies here, you'll note, East and West Dara, which will be united under the titular Kingdom of Dara. Bornu and Kinem, or most of them, not Dara area, will be given to a titular empire of Kinem Bornu. Below here we will have Kokoto, who will have approximately, well, I say approximately, I mean, I've already got it figured out, 3 Duke vassals. I'm still researching out Kinem Bornu. I'm trying to get a more accurate map of this area. It's not perfected yet, but over here you'll see Mali has been demoted to a kingdom tier, and I'll explain that in a bit. Gahana has been demoted to a duchy, not localized, I apologize, in which, and yes, I am apologizing a lot, sorry, I am Canadian. Oop, there I go again. Anyway, these provinces here have become the Duchy of Gahana, because Gahana did kind of go, was much higher up than it is in the, all the way to Timbuktu mod. So, over here we now have, the Duchy of Gahana. And let's see. What else here? The Azawad Duchy is unique in that it's an entire duchy made out of cities. It's a little interesting that way because it's really hard to hold. I mean, there was nothing but nomadic tribes out here, and that's kind of what that represents. There was no castles, there was, just scattered villages. So, that's more or less what this is meant to represent. The only reason that there are even villages out here is because the gold trade with Mali brought gold up to be sold to Europe. Speaking of which, I will be adding in things to simulate that and interesting little effects related to this, which may make controlling the gold trade routes a little more lucrative, and might actually make them worthwhile to go after. It's been added into Mauritania as well, because, yeah. There was an empire that went from Al-Andalusia, or, is it? Yeah, it's Andalusia, right. It's a new patch. All the way down to Timbuktu. It was an empire that was around 1100 AD. Very nice. So can't remember what it's called. I'm blanking on it. Anyway, so that's the majority of the changes in Africa, and just general changes for kingdom and ducal tiers at least. I've got a good at least 15 characters or so who will become playable. Speaking of which, I know Biarma is a lowborn. He will actually be given a dynasty, so he will be playable. Hopefully the tribes in the north will be a little more interesting. Alright, let's move on to the empire tiers. Start over here. The Aksumite Empire was a Roman province, in which contained majority of just Ethiopia. Originally, I wanted to include it as an empire, but the problem was it was so small. So now it's up to 77 provinces. I find this is much more acceptable size of an empire. And then we have this behemoth here, Tamazgaha. Originally this was going to be the Moorish Empire, as it represents an area going from the top of Europe all the way down to about Timbuktu. It doesn't really include this area over here, but oh well. I need somewhere to stick it. It's just sort of it's to the same effect as the Moorish Empire, in that there's no real empire. I mean, I could have put Carthage, but that would make, even from a historical standpoint, that would make absolutely no sense. Carthage never really got beyond the coasts. So, calling it the Carthage Empire would make no sense. I have to put a fictional empire here, or just leave it blank, and I don't really want to leave it blank. It kind of looks ugly that way. So, but since this is a fictional empire, it's got a bit of a price to pay to form it, in that it is huge. It is 189 provinces. Biggest empire in the game. Oof. So, it's going to be tough to form. Looking at the religion, this is the time in which the Islamists sort of fought their way down, took over a majority of the pagans here. So that should be interesting, and should produce some good effects. There's a lot of potential there's going to be a lot of potential for religious conflicts here. Vodun kingdoms will, in fact, be starting at religious stringent. Actually, I think all pagans are probably going to be. I don't know. It's definitely the Norse, and, well, Norse don't really have any kingdoms. Okay. So definitely the African kingdoms down here will all start at religious stringency 4, which means that they will have holy war, which means they will be able to fight against the Muslims. There was a lot of conflict down here. And hopefully, there'll be large-scale wars. Okay. Next on the agenda, I suppose I should address the factor of the changes that they made to Europe. I'm keeping my current divisions. I'm probably going to add in Navarra and Galicia as de jure kingdoms. Take that change. But I'm keeping Aquitania, Lotharingia, Austria, and Prussia as is. I feel like this is the best division. I don't know, I have to fix Germany. It needs to be going to East Francia. Anyway, so that about covers it. Here we can see the new cultures. The Makure culture, which is in the East African culture group, so it fits with Ethiopians. Mande will be renamed to the Hausa. The Mande were farther south than this, much closer to the coasts, and not really here, as it were. So Mande will be renamed to Hausa. We have the Berbers here. We have the Kanem culture and the Sao culture. Here you can see Bedouin. And this has all become Komi. This will also all be Suo Minusco. Some sunny here. The empires, and yeah. I guess that about covers it. There's one interesting mechanic I'm going to be adding in. The religious war unity mechanic. With the whole advent of the new system for people being able to join wars, the hard coded loss of and gain of moral authority didn't feel right. So what I've done is I have set for each person to be in a war, there will be a bigger gain of moral authority or a bigger loss of moral authority. This is also applying for crusades. So, let's say 30 some odd nations participate in a crusade. And it goes bad. It goes bad. And, yeah, they fail the crusade completely. Well, the bad news then comes that, the moral authority damage will be massive. Widespread. Imagine the idea that just some stinking Muslims could defeat the entirety of Christendom. Ugh. That would leave a bad taste in all the peasants' mouths, even the nobles. So, but, such a tiny little incursion in Spain ending badly, not nearly as severe. It might be pretty severe if all the Spanish kingdoms and France were in on it and fighting and lost out. And that's going to be modeled in it too. So, the more people you beat up, the more authority damage you will cause. And the more people, let's say, come to your aid in a religious war, then the more of the authority that will be risen. Because if you come under attack and suddenly, the Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, France, and other nations back you up and help you out, it shows a true unity among the faith, which should hopefully, at least that's what I'm trying to model. It's not an exact science, but I'm working on it. It's gonna be a little balance. The problem is this patch is still gonna be a good week away because it's really hard to localize all the provinces. I'm still short a bunch of flags. Like I need over 125 flags still, and it's gonna take me a long while. I suppose if I get requested enough on the forums or in the comments below, I could release a early version. Just consider it just mechanically completed. It's almost mechanically completed. I just need to add in a couple characters here and there and attach stuff together, and then it's done. I could have that out in a day or two. But the problem is the localizations will look ugly, and you'll have like Land's End here, and if we go over here and look at Land's End, province, whatever, it's not going to look pretty, but it will be playable. If I get a couple of requests, I suppose I can release a beta version that's mechanically complete. I suppose that's about it. Yeah, ask any questions in either the forum or in the comments below. I'll try and get to them. Yeah. Well, goodbye, everyone.